Hey everyone, welcome to another edition of The Bullet. My name is Paul Lathrop. I'm the Deputy Director of New Media for the Second Amendment Foundation. Joining me today from upstate New York, Dan Wos. Dan, of course, the author of the Good Gun, Bad Guy series of books. Dan, thanks for coming along on the ride today, man.
Hey, Paul, thanks for having me as always. I appreciate it.
All right, let's to get started as we usually do. I'm going to remind everybody, if you're watching us on the Polite Society podcast, Facebook or YouTube feeds, you can comment on those live videos. We'll get those comments up and on the air, and we'll discuss them as we go through the news. If you're catching us anywhere else, you pretty much got to go to those feeds if you want to get your comment on the air. Let's go ahead and get started today, Dan. First thing I got is a press release from the Citizens Committee for the Right to Keep and Bear Arms, SAF sister organization. A new NPR/PBS NewsHour Marist poll released Wednesday shows an alarming disregard by Democrats for the Second Amendment. The poll, conducted May 15th through 18th, revealed that 88% of Democrats think reining in gun violence is more important than protecting gun rights, while 67% of Republicans say protecting gun rights is more important. That's according to a report on the Hill. This is a stunning revelation, said CCR KBA Chairman Alan Gottlieb. While we have always advocated for safer communities and have supported citizen initiatives aimed at locking up criminals, it is appalling that such an overwhelming percentage of Democrats are so willing to throw the Second Amendment under the bus to achieve some false sense of security. There's more to the press release, but I'm going to leave it there, Dan. There are a lot of people throughout the nation that are willing to throw gun rights away if that makes them feel a little bit safer, even though time and again the evidence has showed that the weaker the gun laws, the more crime you get.
Well, we know that. We all know that. The gun owners.
Let me restate. The stronger the gun laws, the stronger the anti-gun laws, let me say it that way, the more crime you get.
Right. Where there's more concealed carry, there's less crime.
Exactly.
When there's more gun restrictions, there's more crime. Okay. The big problem here, and I've been thinking a lot about this lately, is the problem is the gun grabbers, the left-wing kind of anti-gun folks. They have been so conditioned to believe that violence is with a gun is caused by the gun. So they think that when they get on this trail to try to find all this gun violence and fix all this so-called gun violence, what they're really missing, they're missing a huge portion of this conversation. They don't comprehend the fact that this is not really about so-called gun violence. There's no such thing. It's human violence. The gun, in any of these situations, the gun never has a say in the matter. So if we can help them realize that this is really human violence, because when you take away the gun, the person is still violent. And we've seen this time and time again. When they can't get a gun, they'll use something else. Same with suicides. People will find a way to commit suicide. So anyway, I just wish we could get through to them. But they've got violence tied to guns somehow now in their mind and in the narrative. And it's a tough thing to break. But I guess I would summarize by saying there's no such thing as gun violence, only human violence. And we need to push back on this terminology, because what it's doing is it's demonizing guns and gun owners. And we can't have it anymore. We can't continue to just keep justifying ourselves and saying, well, the statistics say, and I mean, it's important that we have the statistics, but we have to push back on the narrative itself, because the narrative, the so-called gun violence narrative, that's what's driving this whole thing. And until we debunk that, we're going to be in this debate forever. No such thing as gun violence, only human violence. Now, Mr. Gun Grabber, or Mrs. Gun Grabber, let's take it from that point. If you want to solve the problem of violence, we can help you, but we have to understand that it's a human activity.
Let me get Michael's comment in here over from the Facebook side. Michael says, when it fits their narrative, they will not let it rest. Joe Biden, marking 1 year since the Uvalde school shooting on Wednesday, called on Republicans in Congress to act to end the epidemic of gun violence in the United States. It's really easy to do that, turn the entire nation into permitless carry.
Right. Right.
End the Federal Gun-Free School Zones Act. Repeal that thing. Allow teachers to carry in schools. Allow principals, allow janitors. You're gonna overnight you would see a dramatic drop in school shootings.
And that's why they don't do it, Paul. I truly believe at this point in the game, I've been in this conversation now for years, and you start at a certain point, you start to read between the lines, and you start to see what the real intentions of people are. When you see these consistent school killings increasing every year, and every 10 years, they measure in 10-year increments, but when you see that increasing, and we're screaming it from the mountaintop saying we have to get more security, we have to allow teachers to carry, all the things you're talking about. And when you see consistently that the gun grabbers or the Democrats do nothing to go in that direction, to even entertain those things, you start to understand what their real intentions are. And then when you watch them, after a school killing, capitalize on the death of the children and the misery of the families, then you really start to understand they're not in this to fix the problem of violence. They're in this to perpetuate violence and to capitalize on the violence for more gun restrictions, which they want because they do not want their political opposition to be armed.
Yeah, absolutely. They want to be able to, and let's face it, I've said this many times, all laws on the books, everything from parking tickets up to laws against murder, are enforced at the point of a gun. Because the way they're gonna make you do things, if you don't do it, they're gonna send a policeman with a gun to come and arrest you. So all laws are enforced at the point of a gun. They don't want anybody to resist them, Dan.
Right, exactly. And it's so telling when you watch, Democrat governors letting prisoners out of jail through early release and bail reform and all the nonsense, and getting those corrupt DAs in there and judges and everything. When you see all these things, all these components put together, you start to see that it's a real system that they have in place, and it has nothing to do with stopping violence. It has nothing to do with protecting people or saving lives. Although that's the talking point that they use, because they can get people, the vast majority of America, as a matter of fact, because they're not in this conversation as deep as we are. The vast majority of people will go along with them when they say we need to save lives, we need to protect the children, we need to do something about this gun violence, and we need more gun restrictions. The vast majority of people who aren't paying attention like we are, they go right along with it because it's easy. 1 + 1 = 2. Violence, okay. Guns, okay. We see that. We see violence. We see the gun. We understand that a gun restriction will fix the problem. That's all they see. They don't understand that it's making the problem worse, and that the gun grabbers are capitalizing off of the violence and the death. I don't know what else to say about that, Paul. I hope people are listening, and I know the people watching this show are listening, but I wish that some of the sort of anti-gun folks would really pay attention and admit that they've been taken for a ride for decades.
So how do we bridge that gap, so to speak? How do we normalize the use of firearms? How do we get across to these gun grabbing politicians that they're going the wrong way?
Okay. So the way you help people, what I've learned is the way you help people see something that they don't want to see is by asking them questions that elicit their own thought so they can come up with their own solution. So what you want to try to do is ask people who are these, okay, all this violence, we need to get rid of guns, these type of people. Ask them, what about all the people with guns who've never committed a crime in their life? Are they dangerous? And they'll be forced to admit that no, they're not. So, okay, so we've established that, there are the vast majority of gun owners that really are not dangerous people. They're good people. Then you have to ask them, well, what about the people who have access to a gun that do kill people or do hurt people? Are they bad people? Or what causes that? And then they'll be forced to say, well, yeah, so that person is bad or has bad intentions or is likely to do bad things. But this person over here is not, because they never have in their entire life. So you're helping them see that it's really about the human behavior. But you have to ask the question to get them to think about that. And most people don't think about that because they're presented with violence and a gun and a restriction. That's what they're presented with. But when you help them see by asking them questions, is this person good or bad, or is this person good or bad, you can help them kind of anchor that thought process onto the person rather than the gun. And once we can do that, once we can help people understand that this is human behavior that's causing the problem, it's not guns at all. It has nothing to do with guns. The guns has no say in the matter whatsoever. Once we can help them, at least even for a moment, recognize that this is human behavior that's causing this violence, then we can start talking to them and we can start helping them understand. Then they'll be more likely to listen to statistics and all that stuff. But it's helping them see it in their own head because they've been conditioned and brainwashed with this anti-gun rhetoric and nonsense and narrative for decades.
Let me get a comment in here. This one as well from the Facebook side. David says, Police1.com says more people that carry, less violence. 82% of 15,000 officers asked. So it looks, at least from that comment, it looks like we have most of the police on our side, that they think if more people carried, there would be less crime.
And we have all the statistics on our side. We have all of them. We have the defensive gun uses versus violent gun uses, and all this. All the statistics really always boil down to guns being an asset to society. But the problem is that emotional drive and that emotional pull that they have on people who don't know any better is stronger than any of that data. So getting through to them on a personal character level, on a psychological level first, on even an emotional level, helping them see that, hey, look, if you're in trouble, you're going to want somebody with a gun. Helping them understand that first will help them look at the statistics, like this comment was talking about, with more clarity and more non-biased opinion.
Next story I want to get to, Dan. This is a perfect example of those who are trying to regulate guns not knowing a darn thing about the guns they're trying to regulate. New Mexico Governor Michelle Lujan Grisham knows exactly where to go to get phony media coverage and an agreeable viewing audience for her all-call gun control platform. I'm going to skip down this story. I got it off of NSSF. I'm going to quote Governor Grisham out of New Mexico here. This is a weapon of war. Frankly, no one that isn't in the military or trained police department, in my view, no one in America should own an automatic weapon. There is no reason for one of those, she said.
Yep.
It's a commentary.
I saw that. Go ahead. Sorry. Go ahead.
And well, what I want to get to is let's just say the AR-15, that is what she's talking about, and it's not what she's saying. Is she's saying an AR-15 is an automatic rifle? It's not. The AR-15 is semi-auto. One pull of the trigger means one discharge.
Okay, so this I saw her video. I saw this video of her actually saying this, and we have to understand one thing. Well, a couple things. The first thing is that they know what they're doing with this. So if you look at this statement, this weapon of war. Okay, so she knows that that's a talking point that's going to scare Sally's soccer mom. Weapons of war scares the hell out of people who don't know any better. She knows that. She put that up front. She says, frankly, no one that isn't in the military or trained police department, in my view, no one in America, should own. So no one should own. So first of all, that goes way against the Second Amendment. She knows that, but what she does is she calls it a weapon of war. So people who don't know any better will say, oh yeah, well that makes sense. Weapons of war should be on the battlefield. So people will go along with that. And then she throws in the automatic weapon thing. Now, you and I both know that AR-15s or the common semi-automatic rifle is not an automatic weapon. We know that, and they know that too. But they throw in automatic weapon because they know that people understand automatic weapons are much worse when it comes to spraying bullets and all the nonsense they've heard than a semi-automatic. Because they hear the pro-gun folks say, no, semi-automatic. And they hear the left-wingers say automatic. It's to get them to gravitate towards something scarier. She knows that. And then she says there's no reason to own one of these. So in other words, you have to have a reason. You have to have a need. They always say no one needs this or no one needs that. They implement this idea that you need a reason to own what she's calling an automatic weapon, another lie, and then she's calling a weapon of war another lie. She's got all these lies wrapped up into one package that's clearly designed to scare people. She knows exactly what she's doing, and the problem we have is that this type of rhetoric is powerful to people who don't know any better. It's very powerful, and this is what's hurting us right now. It's this rhetoric, and it's these lies, and the anti-gun crowd knows exactly what they're doing. This is a fantastic way to push the narrative. From her perspective and from her left-wing gun grabbers' perspective, she's doing a fantastic job with this statement.
I'm going to jump down here to the last story on the list because it relates. It absolutely it's a one-for-one correlation between with this story and the last one. Sparks fly in a bill in Ohio to make Ohio a Second Amendment sanctuary state. State lawmakers are considering a bill its Republican sponsors will say will protect Ohio gun owners from federal laws and policies they think go too far. The bill would declare Ohio a Second Amendment sanctuary state to encourage police not to enforce federal gun control measures. I want to jump down and get a quote in from Representative Danny Isaacson out of Cincinnati, specifically railing against pistol braces. And he noted the pistol brace was used in a 2019 mass shooting in Dayton that left 9 people dead and 17 wounded. 41 shots in 30 seconds killed 9 people in Dayton, he said. And you know how he did it? He was using a pistol brace that turns a regular AR-15 pistol or any sort of pistol he was using into effectively a machine gun that can cut down 9 people. 41 shots in 30 seconds, Isaacson said. The pistol brace doesn't affect the rate of fire. Everybody who's in the firearms world knows that. And an AR pistol brace only works for AR pistols. Try putting a Glock 17 in there and you're going to have a big problem. Again, another example of somebody railing for gun control that doesn't know a darn thing about guns.
Yeah. Either they don't know a darn thing about guns or they do know and they're doing it on purpose. So it's hard to tell sometimes. 41 shots, 31 seconds. Okay, what do you say? A pistol brace turns a regular AR-15 pistol or any sort of pistol he was using into effectively a machine gun. So either he doesn't know, or he wanted to get that. Is Danny a guy or a girl? Dani.
Could be either way.
Okay,
I don't
whatever.
know.
He, she. So either he, she didn't know that that it doesn't actually turn it into a machine gun, or they knew it doesn't, and they wanted to get that word in, because these are quotes. These are quotes for the media. They think about this stuff ahead of time, and they make sure that they get AR-15, machine gun, 30 seconds killed 9 people, and pistol brace, of course, because that's the thing they want to get rid of right now. That's the thing they're attacking. So all these little talking points are put together for a specific purpose. And again, Sally's soccer mom hears machine gun, and she runs to the voting polls to vote for the person the Democrat who's going to promise her safety for her and her kids.
Well, I'm going to say this. If I had a revolver and speed loads, I could pull off, with a revolver, I could pull off 41 shots in 30 seconds. Yeah. It's not that fast.
I know. And that's not even they don't even care about any of that stuff. They just care about the rhetoric and the narrative and how much terminology they can use to scare people to get them to vote for these gun restrictions. That's all they really care about, Paul. They'll lie through their teeth, or they just don't know what they're talking about. It doesn't matter, because they're all using the same rhetoric.
Yeah. I want to get to a bit of good news, and this is right. Today, of course, is the anniversary of the Uvalde shooting in Texas, the 1-year anniversary, and there's a lot of media about it, and there was a big push from the president today trying to get news media to get more gun control, trying to spread out on news media that they want people to push their Congress critters to get more gun control. But I got this off Axios.com. 1 year after the Uvalde mass shooting, Texas lawmakers are poised to pass measures that they say will make schools safer, even as they have not seriously entertained any gun control bills. The measures would provide incentives for school employees to arm themselves on campus, require school safety inspections, and mandate mental health training for teachers. They already sent to Governor Greg Abbott a bill that would require school districts to install silent panic buttons in every classroom. That sounds to me like the Texas legislature gets it, and they're all about hardening the schools to make it harder to attack a school. Dude, that's the way we need to go.
Well, of course. I mean, anybody. It just makes sense. It's so obvious. I can't even believe we have to have this conversation with these people. Yeah, that's what we should have done, decades ago. How many years ago? When was it? 1990. I don't know, 30 years ago. And since Joe Biden's Gun-Free School Zones Act. So, yeah, we've been saying this. It's refreshing to hear somebody who has some leverage say it, but it's like, what the hell what took you so long?
Welcome to the club. Yeah. Let me and then further into that story, 2019, the legislature created a $100 million grant program to pay for security upgrades. The Texas House and Senate have passed versions of sweeping school safety measures that would, again, require the inspections of school buildings. Also offers grants to students who want to attend another school district if their current one is not complying with safety standards. That's
it really gives them away. The anti-gun folks, it gives them away when they were saying stuff like, well, we don't want security at the doors of our schools because we don't want the kids to feel like they're in prison. Would you rather have them get killed? Is that really? I mean, okay, So what if they feel like prison, which I don't think they will. We go into football stadiums and we go into concerts and all this stuff, and there's security everywhere. Do you feel like you're in a prison when you go to a, where are you? What's your favorite football team?
Up near where I am, it would be the Minnesota Vikings.
Okay, so the Vikings. When you go to the stadium to watch the Vikings, and you see and you have to go past security, do you feel like you're in prison?
No.
No, it's a joke. These kids would not feel like they're in prison, but they fight us on this stuff. I am convinced because they want to see this type of violence in schools perpetuate. It's the only thing they've got. Well, it's not the only thing, but it's a good tool that they have to continue pushing for gun regulation.
Let me get a couple more comments in here quick. First one from Michael. And Facebook is blowing up today compared to YouTube. We're getting all the comments are coming from Facebook. It's a fundamental legal principle in the U.S. that ignorance of the law is no defense. Then why are Democrats so ignorant of the Constitution's laws?
Well, unfortunately, right now they have control over the FBI, over the DOJ. They have control over everything. They can do whatever the hell they want, and nobody's getting held accountable.
Well, and that's one thing I think you and I agree on, Dan, is we need to make lawmakers accountable. For example, if they pass a gun control measure and it's found unconstitutional, they need to have some skin in the game. Personally, it's going to hurt them when that thing gets knocked down. And right now, it's just state money or city money or county money that goes to defend these lawsuits. We need to make lawmakers personally responsible for the laws they pass.
And, governors especially, because up here in New York, Kathy Hochul, the originally appointed governor, was, she created this new Concealed Carry Improvement Act, a package of laws that she knew was worse than what had just got knocked down in the Supreme Court. So if we can hold them accountable personally, either by impeachment or having them step down or something, or financially hold them responsible, this stuff will stop. But as long as Democrats are in control, we're never going to get these laws put into place.
We get one more comment in here. We're getting right down towards the time we have for today. David says, Tennessee, they fired 136 shots in 17 minutes. The reload time doesn't matter. Single shot to 30-round mags, 100-round drum, it doesn't matter. Yeah, 17 minutes, that's a very long time.
Long time. Yeah.
So, I think David's on the nose there. And let me get this one in from C&T Designs and Arms over on the YouTube side. Thanks for checking in, C&T. Make no mistake, Democrats know what the Constitution says. They just don't care.
Yeah, I know that's the shameful part. Democrats didn't used to be like this. They used to actually have somewhat of a respect for the Constitution, Bill of Rights. Now they just blatantly violate it every chance they get. It's really shameful. I don't know what to say about that.
All right, well, we are down at the bottom of the hour. Before we take off, man, I want you to plug your book series, Good Gun, Bad Guy, and anything else you want to plug today, man.
Well, right over here, Good Gun, Bad Guy book series. It's a 3-book series. I hope everybody gets it. I know the feedback that we've gotten on the books is just awesome. It's getting great reviews, great feedback. Ted Nugent actually endorsed book number 2 right there, and he loved it. So, goodgunbadguy.com. You can go to goodgunbadguy.com and get the book series. And also my show, The Loaded Mic, which is our web show, primarily Second Amendment related, but we do get into the topics of the day. LoadedMic.com, and you can also find us on Rumble and on the Ops Lens Network. LoadedMic.com or GoodGunBadGuy.com.
As you can see, I've got 2 of the books right here at my desk. The green one doesn't show up on this side. The green one doesn't show up real good against a green screen, but I do have 2 and 3 right here. I've even got signed copies, by the way. So thanks again, Dan. That's going to do it for us today. We're going to go ahead and shut the show down. Do join me tomorrow. Matt Mallory will be in the commentator seat. Thanks, everybody, for watching. Thanks, podcast listeners, for listening. We'll see you next time.